Hi, readers. It's Lori. Welcome back to my channel, Books, Ink, and Paper. And today we're going to talk about a book list. It is the season of book lists. I'm sure you've seen, as I have, numbers of videos about the Goodreads Choice Awards that have recently been released. The original number of those titles is pretty large. Then you'll vote for the ones you want in each category, and then of course they'll narrow it down to one in each, one winner. I am not going to review those. It is lengthy. There are so many of them, and so many wonderful booktubers have already done that. So I encourage you to just search for Goodreads Choice Awards 2025 on YouTube, and you will find a plethora of them, and I have enjoyed watching them very, very much. In fact, I even did a live version of that with Tina and Hannah on Book Talk, etc. The podcast, they did a live quick the other night, and I was so delighted. We had a great time. We all talked about each book, but for today, I thought I would bring forward the Amazon list of their top 20 books of 2025. And this one really kind of, I guess it's some ways it surprised me and in some ways it didn't. But what I like about this is I think that it is based on ratings for sure, because some of these books are rated very highly, but I also think that it's rated by the quality of the books and by the readership and really by, I don't know what their choice consists of, but I would say that these feel like more home to me in terms of what I would want to read and what I maybe already have or have read. So let's talk about them in the order in which they're ranked. So we're going to start with number 20, which is Baldwin, A Love Story by Nicholas Boggs. This is nonfiction. I think I brought this forward in my most anticipated reads release, and I think this came out in October, but don't quote me on that at all because I can't keep all of this straight. What's really unique about this one, and the reason that I brought it forward and really love it, is because first of all, I love James Baldwin and his story. His story is both wonderful and difficult, but also because Nicholas Boggs shares this nonfiction work with all of us based on the relationships that Baldwin had in his life that really stand out. And so hence why it is called a love story, and it really just helps you understand as a reader how his life evolved based on the information that Nicholas Boggs has and based on the ways in which he showed up with these men and with others in his life probably. So I have not read it. I have not purchased it, but it's still something that I feel like I would get one day, probably from a library borrow. Now, The Book of Guilt by Catherine Chidgey, I think, Chidgey. I have no idea if that's correct, but this one is a novel that is set in World War II. And I have an affinity for those, but also the marketplace is kind of saturated with them. I will say a lot of people have been talking about that, and I recognize that's true too. But these are the only boys that are left in an orphanage, and the secret of what brought them into existence, it says, but also what brought them together and the key to their survival is really the focus of this book. So here's why this one really, to me, is a great pick and why I would likely read this at some point in the next year. This one gets me, and I can't tell you. It is historical fiction. It's dystopian. It's sci-fi. It's literary fiction. It's like hitting all the genres, okay? So this is an alternative version of World War II where nobody won the war. And these three brothers are the focus of this particular plot. 13-year-old triplets, Vincent, Lawrence, and Williams, are the last remaining residents at this orphanage called the Captain Scott Home for Boys. And they every day had to take this medicine to protect themselves from an illness that has been rampant across the country. So they're still alive and they're allowed to move to this community called Margate, which is a seaside resort, but it says it's mythical. Okay, then you meet 13-year-old Nancy, and Nancy has been living secluded with her parents, and they love her, but they all never leave the house. They're very good parents, but the triplets then begin to intersect with Nancy's story, which then brings light to some horrifying things, the origins of their story, and that they decide then that they all need to unite and escape. I have no idea. I have not heard anybody talking about this. If you've been talking about it or you read it, please let me know because this one is fascinating to me. And I feel like, I mean, I'm not going to go out and buy it today, but I feel like I really want to get to this one. Then number 18 is Heart the Lover by Lily King. Look, I tried to read this one. I started it. I did not get very far in it at all, and I DNF'd it softly. Here's why, though. Olive, at a Book Olive, does read a lot of Lily King, and she has really liked a lot of Lily King's novels. However, she said when she had read this one that she thinks you should start with Lily King at the beginning. So I'm going to assume that that is great advice because Olive always gives great advice, and I think I'm going to make that happen. But Heart the Lover is about a woman and a number of other characters that are in college, as I remember, and I began this journey with their banter and their partying and their experiences with each other, and they are really kind of, those friends that are just kind of snarky back and forth. It may be that literally this may be the truth. I was rewatching the Gilmore Girls or Gilmore Girls. It doesn't have a the until the last episode. If you know, you know. But nevertheless, I was watching that and there's always banter there too. There's arguing, there's conflict. And so I think it was just like too much, right? But I do think this is good. A lot of people like it. Tina and Hannah also brought this one forward for one of their Patreons group reads, book club nights, and I did not attend because I didn't finish it, but I hear it's sort of a mixed bag for a lot of people. The Beast in the Clouds, the Roosevelt Brothers' Deadly Quest to Find the Mythical Giant Panda by Natalia Holt is number 17, nonfiction. You had me at The Beast in the Clouds, to be honest, but then you had me at the Roosevelt Brothers and the search for a giant panda, because to be quite honest, at this time of history, no one thought that this panda existed. It was a mythical kind of creature, and the Roosevelt Brothers were certain that it was not. So to think about this, this presidential presence in this family, but also this, extremely interesting view of what happened and how this occurred and how this whole quest ran through, I think it would be fantastic. So we shall see. Okay, this one I own, haven't read yet, feel bad about it. King of Ashes, S.A. Cosby is number 16, and I've talked about it. It was the most anticipated release. Clearly, it was a book club pick for me, or book of the month club pick for me. I just need to sit down and get this read. I love S.A. Cosby. He's not for everyone. These are often very violent, very gruesome, very graphic. But this one is also about a mafia family, which that's a group of humans that I really am fascinated by and always have been. Fiction or nonfiction doesn't matter to me. So this one is about Roman Carruthers, who left his family's crematory business to work as a financial advisor, and then he gets a call from his sister that his father is not well. And so lots of things happen and ensue as a result of that. And he's kind of drawn back in and pulled back into this relationship with his family. But I can't imagine that it won't be good. I have loved the other two by this author that I have read. And I love listening to him talk about books and talk with other authors. So if you haven't done that before, I highly recommend it. This one is also nonfiction, has a 4.06, but a lot of people haven't read it yet. But this is Next of Kin by Gabrielle Hamilton. And this memoir is really about her family. It is being dubbed as a stunning book by this author. Now, she has also written other books that are fiction, but she was raised in a family of very eclectic Interesting people. I'm going to read you this little bit because I think it says a lot, and then I'm just going to kind of tell you what happens next. But we were a family veined through with certain brutalities, rifts, and unresolved conflicts, as well as some remarkable violences and some decades-long silences. But together we had rituals, systems, congruent, cohering events that made us who we were as one. I thought of the black and blue marks as if they were the desirable spores of mold found in noble cheeses. I can't even tell you how much this paragraph made me want to read this book. So it is indeed about her family, about the dysfunction of her family, about her challenges to become a chef, then an author who's really a best-selling author. She's won lots of awards, but also her family continued to just break and fray and be difficult. And one of her brothers dies suddenly, and another brother, I think, commits suicide. I think those are two separate deaths. And so she begins at this time to really examine for herself, her family, the legacy of that family in some ways, but also how this has impacted her, and I'm sure how she's recovered from all of this. It just seems like it would be fascinating and also difficult. But like I said, I think so. I think that's a must for me. So that's number 15. Number 14 is Cursed Daughters, and I will not be able to say this name correctly. Oyunkan Brathwaite or Breathright. This one also has a pretty good rating, but not a lot. It's been just released recently, as many of these have. So this is about a family curse. Oh gosh, this is fiction. And a widely held belief that one of those daughters is the reincarnated version of their cousin. So this is supposed to be funny and very perceptive of these particular characters in their relationship to love and to arguing, to superstition, the belief in curses, family curses. And it's the author that wrote this is the author of My Sister the Serial Killer, which I haven't read and I've wanted to read for a while. So this one just might sort of propel me into the Oyinkan Brathwaite canon. We shall see, but I think this was a good choice. This was also one of the nominees for Goodreads Choice Award. Several of these were, so that's also important for you to know. Then R.F. Kuang's Katabasis or Katabasis, which nobody can quite agree on, but I really need to know the answer to this. So if you would put that in the comments below, if you know the answer to this, let me know. But R.F. Kuang is an author that I have read before. I read Yellowface and I really did enjoy it. This one is fantasy. It is definitely a chunker, but I am very interested in reading it, and I have been for a while. I am slightly concerned about the hype behind it, but I think it'll be okay. There is a beautiful version of this book that is out with sprayed edges and all those things, as you probably aren't surprised by. Surprisingly, this one isn't rated as highly as some of these others, but again, it may not be for everyone. It's also nominated for the Goodreads Choice Award. So it's dark academia, fantasy, romance, historical fiction. It came out this August. Now, there are several versions of this cover, so you want to be certain that you are getting the one you want should you decide to get this. But it's gotten some awards already, this one. So this is Alice, who is really determined to become the brightest mind in the field of magic in her community, in her college. And she's sacrificed almost everything to move into the level that she is. And she works with a professor named Jacob, and they're at Cambridge, and Jacob is the greatest magician in the world, the best mentor for her to have, but then he dies in an accident that is possibly her fault. And so she and another person go into hell to try to find him. I'm not sure why she would think that he's in hell. They're going to try to write this because she's feeling very guilty about what happened. Sounds really crazy. A lot of people love it though. It just depends. It depends because fantasy is hit or miss for me. It can work and it might not work. All right, this one is called Paper Girl. This is also nonfiction, and it is by Beth Macy. And this is the story of, to some degree, of her life, but also it is the story of her community, her town, the town she grew up in. So Beth was raised by parents who were very poor, and I think her father was somewhat difficult. Her relationship with her parents was not particularly solid if you look at the synopsis, but she later moved somewhere else. But this is a little community called Urbana, Ohio. And it's interesting because there's a Champaign Urbana in Illinois, which is divided, but also always connected to each other. So it's very, very weird. But this is a small community. She was literally a paper girl when she was young. And she describes not only her life, but also the experience that she's recognizing of this town and community changing over time. So it was super cute when she was young, and it was a little community where everybody was careful with each other, and they knew each other, and they supported each other. They bought the newspaper, they cared about the news, they cared about helping others in the community. And when her mother gets sick and her health declines, Beth goes in 2020 to be with her mom and to support her, and discovers this is a very different town. These are very different people. The graduation rates were plummeting. This was not the sort of idyllic little place that she remembered and imagined it would still be. So what happened, right? So she takes this on as an assignment to really kind of look at this community and what could have occurred and what could have sort of solved this. So this is what the synopsis of this nonfiction book says, which I again think is beautiful, so I'm going to read it to you. Paper Girl is a gift of courage, empathy, and insight, a profoundly generous act. Beth Macy has turned to face the darkest corners in the shared life of her family and community, people she loves wholeheartedly, even the ones she struggles now to like. And in doing so, in facing this truth in person with respect, she has found sparks of human dignity that she's used to light a great signal fire of warning, but also of hope. So it's historical, it's biographical memoir, it's also history, and current affairs come into this picture as well. So I think it sounds great. I mean, very unique, and something I would be interested in just because I grew up in a fairly small collar community outside of Chicago, and we had the same kind of community, and it's probably not that way now, which makes me very, very sad. Number 11 is Broken Country by Claire Leslie Hall. Everyone is talking about this book. I think this might be a book club selection for my book club soon because it's one that we voted on recently. I have heard a lot of people love this one. They say that it's very relatable to Where the Crawdads Sing. And I am not suggesting that I won't like it, but I'm also not certain that I will. So I have not picked it up. I have not purchased it. It's been on my radar a lot. It is also a book that has a bit of hype, but it's, just sort of a coming of age story, and it is set in the country, obviously, and I hear that it's worth the read. So if you've read this one, I would really love to know what you think about it, because a lot of you have very similar tastes to mine. I didn't dislike Where the Crawdads Sing. I think I liked it. I think, though, it was also very hard for me to read. I remember really struggling to finish it. So perhaps that's what's holding me back. When somebody comps a book to another book, there's a there's a trail of memory to that book, good or bad. But this one is definitely popular. Then The Loneliness of Sonia and Sunny by Kieran Desai is number 10. And this one, I also think that it's dark and difficult, but I'm interested in it. So this is about two young adults who are intersecting across continents, and they are connected both in India and America with family and tradition and those kinds of things. This author, Kieran Desai, won a Booker Prize for The Inheritance of Loss a while ago, which I have not read, but I have been wanting to get to. So this is Vermont. Sonia is a college student, and she's writing, and she's homesick for India. She's really not feeling the love of Vermont in the winter. But she then calls on an artist who's part of the community, the college, and he ends up casting a spell on her, a dark spell on her. So it changes her life. I would have, by this, wondered if this one was also a fantasy, but it's not listed as a fantasy on Goodreads, so I'm not sure. Nevertheless, Sunny is in Brooklyn, and Sunny is lonely too. A journalist originally from India, and he's perplexed by his American girlfriend and the country in which he plans to try to live for the rest of his life. America is just kind of not his thing. So he's looking for happiness and human connection and being in a sense of belonging. So Sonia and Sunny's extended families can't fathom how anyone could not be happy in America. So they go to America to find out and to see how their kids are. So it's the tale of two young people, and it is how they navigate the forces that have shaped their country, the challenges of race and ethnicity, the bonds between one generation that are not necessarily the same for the next generation. And it says it's a love story, a family saga, which you know I love a family saga, and a rich novel of ideas. So I think that this one might be beautiful. It has a 3.95. It sounds like it's dark though too, so I would have to be in the right frame of mind for this one as well. I like this cover a lot. I really, really do. And now for something completely different. You remember that saying? What was that from? You'll have to remind me. Maybe Monty Python. Okay. Replaceable You, Adventures in Human Anatomy by Mary Roach. This cover is fantastic. I have to say, will I read this nonfiction? I don't know, but it's very curious for me. So this is about your complex body, and you can't necessarily replace the parts of your body in all ways, but medicine is trying to find ways in which you can recover and ways in which you can use things that are unusual in order to heal. So, for example, replacing skin from frogs and hearts from pigs, you get the idea, right? We're learning all the time about the nuances of and the discoveries of things that can help us to fix something inside of us that we never would have imagined would be fixed. And as you think about it, over centuries, we have examined healthcare in a new way, and we've found, cures for all kinds of things. So this one really does look at ways in which you can replace something with something else in order to continue to live and to thrive. So I think this would be fun. I just don't know that I will buy this one either, but it says it immerses readers in the wondrous, improbable, and surreal quest to build a new you. I think this would probably be good on audio, but I don't know. So that is my question. If you have read this one, let me know. It has not been out, I don't think, very long either. But it's fairly short. It came out in September. Yeah, so it's been out a little bit. 288 pages. Winifred is really wanting a lot of attention today. All right, number 8, I read Atmosphere, Taylor Jenkins Reid. Everyone is talking about this. Everyone is pushing this one forward as a great read. I'm no different. I loved this book. It was a 5-star read for me, which I haven't had as many of this year. So I was really excited that I really enjoyed it. I love space travel. I love books about space. This, of course, is a novel. I also love books about women in queer relationships when in a time in an era where that was very difficult and they had to keep it very secretive. The camaraderie in this book appealed to me. It's not for everybody, I would suggest, but it's very, very well written. And it is dual timeline. However, it's not back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, which can sometimes really cause me to have a little bit of a spin. I would say that the reason I like this one more than I liked Malibu Rising, and not more than, I wouldn't say, Evelyn Hugo, but what was about Evelyn Hugo's book and the way she structured that, as well as Daisy Jones and the Six, which I did not read, are those, vignettes of interviews with someone about the lives of these people, whereas this one was live action, like what was happening along the way, just like Malibu Rising was. And I think I prefer those. I did love Evelyn Hugo. I loved her story. I felt like I went back into it and it just really drew me in. I tried to read Daisy Jones and the Six and it was not working for me. And I've heard a lot of people have that same challenge. So I think that that for me is the issue. So I would probably continue to read Taylor Jenkins Reid, but I would say this one and Evelyn are definitely tied. This one might edge Evelyn out just a little because of the way that it's written and because of the story. Awake is a memoir by Jen Hatmaker. This one has 4.40 ratings, also nominated in the Goodreads Choice Awards for nonfiction. I have not read anything by Jen Hatmaker. I have to say, this one got me. Got me. This is a memoir about her marriage, and the beginning of this, the setup for this, is that she awakens in the night in her bed with her husband of 26 years, and she discovers that her husband is sexting someone on his phone while he is sleeping or was not asleep next to her. And so she realizes that he's been having an affair, and now she is awake and aware of this and is going to tell you the story about this this experience for her. So it says that it's funny, it's also brutally honest, and it is definitely the end of her marriage, this trauma that she's gone through. And yeah, I feel like I'm gonna have to pick this one up. I didn't hear about this one. It was published on my birthday. I do think I want to read this one. I don't know that I will purchase it physically, but it might also be a good audio book. A lot of memoirs are good audiobooks, some of them not so much, just it kind of depends, but I think this one might work for me. The Intruder by Frida McFadden. I gotta tell you guys, there's a lot of buzz in the Goodreads Choice Award community about Frida McFadden and how she received 3 nominations in the same category for her books. I feel like that is a little oversaturated. I feel like Frida McFadden has kind of overtaken the genre. However, I am not suggesting that this would be a terrible read. I just don't know that I personally would pick up another Frida McFadden, but a lot of people are really, really aligned with her work and they really enjoy her. So I'm sure that this one will get a lot of buzz. The number of people that read her books is just incredible. It's really, really incredible. But that is, one of the things is people rate and read a book and then it pops to the top. And so it has to have a great amount of merit and interest. So there you go. But all right, you know what happened. This is Editing Lori saying, I forgot to tell you what this book is about. If you don't know, which is probably unlikely, this one is about a woman who ends up in a cabin isolated in the woods, and a girl shows up at her window. I think the weather is pretty chancy. The girl is covered in blood and she takes her in, but I think the girl will not let go of a weapon that she's holding and will not tell her a whole lot, won't talk. That's what I remember about The Intruder. All right, Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey. I did read. I did not love this one. I gave it 3 stars. It was well written. I just really didn't stick with it. It just wasn't holding on to me in a way that I wanted it to. But this one is about a family who live in this Arctic community, and the climate change has destroyed cities, communities, the planet, essentially. This man lives there with his children. His wife has passed away, and he's trying to save his children and to keep as much that he can in terms of rations and to feed them and to be able to live comfortably to some degree, which is impossible. But a woman washes ashore and she's very ill and very injured. Turns out that her husband, she was separated from her husband during some sort of a storm. And so we learn about her, we learn about them, we learn about this place where they live and this devastation that they're going through and this, unease. I mean, it's really very, very dark and very difficult terrifying, really, in many ways. But it was just hard for me to track with it through the whole thing. I really struggled. I almost DNF'd it, but I kept on going. So again, you're probably going to love it. Lots of people do. It has great ratings. Just didn't work for me. The Emperor of Gladness, Ocean Vuong. I have another Ocean Vuong on audio. It was one of the first ones I bought on my Libro.fm account. Started it, didn't finish it. Just not a good time for me to focus on it, but I was enjoying it. It was beautifully written. But The Emperor of Gladness is another one that I think I will need to read, listen to perhaps. I love the premise of this book. So this is about a man who's in Connecticut, and this community has kind of devolved as well, post-industrial town. So people are struggling. He's 19 years old, and Hal stands on the edge of a bridge, determined that he's going to kill himself. But an elderly woman named Grazine or Grazina convinces him not to do that. She has dementia though, and so she and he become really close friends. So it's a story of found family. It's a story about relationship to each other, to themselves, to a community that's really evolving into something that is not helpful and not supportive. It's history, memory, because she has dementia. It's just beautiful. Second chance, life kinds of situations. I mean, people love it. People love it. It is number 4 on this list, so people love it. All right, so The Boys in the Light, number 3, an extraordinary World War II story of survival, faith, and brotherhood by Nina Wilner, nonfiction. Nina Wilner is the daughter of the man that is a part of this story. So Nina Wilner's father and another teenage boy were survivors of Auschwitz and Buchenwald, and they escaped. And so this is the story of how that occurred and how they met each other, how they spent those years in the concentration camps, and how they were obviously forced into labor. They were not fed. And I don't want to tell you too much because I really feel like this should be revealed as we read it. So I'm not even reading ahead too much in this synopsis, but I think that this is a meaningful, powerful nonfiction book. So there you go. Number 2, we're almost there. This is a slightly low drum roll, is The Correspondent by Virginia Evans. Look, I still have not finished this, you guys. I feel terrible about that. I know. I need to get back to it. It happened that I started it, and then, I had other things that I had to get to for different events and things, or library books that needed to be returned. So I love my copy of this. I don't love the other cover, but that's just me. But this is an epistolary cause for celebration, Ann Patchett says. I love this so far. It really is about this woman whose name is, oh gosh, what is her name? It is Sybil Van Antwerp. And Sybil writes a lot of letters, including a letter to Ann Patchett. She's fantastic, quirky, interesting, unique. This is going to be a fast read once I get to it. If I can get the 2 books that I'm currently reading, which I'm loving, by the way, finished fairly quickly, I would love to just grab this on a weekend, maybe the days that I'm off after Thanksgiving, although I'm probably going to have the grandkids, which is fine. I love having the grandkids on Black Friday, but I think I would really love to put them in front of a book themselves or a movie and just devour this, but we shall see. I really do think that I can safely say this is going to be a 5-star read for me. And lovely people have recommended that we read this as well. Florence Knapp, Lucy Atkins, Anne Griffin. Yes, please let me get to that. And that's number 2. So people love that book. Okay, and number 1 is Buckeye by Patrick Ryan. I have been watching this one. I have not purchased this one. I may purchase this one soon. I don't know. This one is very, very hyped as well. It has great ratings. However, I think I'm going to like it. I just do. So this one is also two timelines, historical fiction as well as a more contemporary literary fiction feel. This one is blurbed by Anne Napolitano by saying that she loves this book with her entire heart. That is a lot to say. So this is set in Ohio, all these Midwestern families, the aftermath of the victory in Europe. And a man named Cal comes home and has been wounded, but he has returned to his community in Ohio. Margaret Salt is trying to obscure her past. Something has happened and she doesn't want to have anything to do with it. And then Cal's wife, Becky, is a spiritual kind of mind reader or seer. And so she can conjure up a lot of information for people to connect with people that they've lost. Okay. So Margaret's husband, Felix, is serving in the Navy and he's missing. They have no idea if he is well or if he's not. And so they're going to have I'm sure they're going to have an event where they try to figure that out. But what is true about this book is that those things that happen then do then relate to the things that are happening in the current timeline. So it goes through decades of family and of friendship and understanding human spirit. So I think that this one is, again, just very beautifully written, not unlike the one that I'm currently reading now by an author that I love, and I'll tell you about that soon. But it's a family kind of saga. It's a great book club read, I've heard. A lot of people have really enjoyed talking about it. And so it's one town, two families, and a secret that changes everything is the blurb for that. And I have heard that it is remarkable. So we shall see. If any of you have read any of these or have loved them or not loved them, do let us know. Whatever your experience has been is valid and important for us. And again, we don't all always like the same things, right? That's the challenge of reading with people. You have to just accept that it just may not be for you. But I think a lot of these are definitely for me, and I will be struggling not to purchase them and add too many books to my already stacked shelves. Let me know if you agree with these ratings. If you have looked at other books in other ratings or Goodreads Choice or anything like that, let me know too. A lot of these are definitely in the Goodreads Choice Awards. These are not unique to any other award categories, but for me, this was a nicer 20 versus I don't even know how many are in that Goodreads Choice Awards now. They have added so many categories, but I also thought that this was nice because it wasn't duplicative of the same author, which I think sometimes is a little much. So thanks for watching. Thanks for all your support, your comments, watching other booktubers that I love as well. I know you are too, and I love to see your comments everywhere. Really, it's just good to see your presence in this community. And as always, happy reading. Bye.